Hi everyone, it's Jules by Jude. I'm glad to be back doing another video, and I have a few things I just want to share with you. One of them is I started doing my 2020 clay adventure. It's a course that cost me, I think it was $99 for the year, and I did a puppy flower on a piece of wood. It's not a piece of jewelry, and it's somewhere I'm not used to going to. So, I don't have that here today to show you yet, but I will show you in the future. Anyhow, I had great fun doing it, and y'all should look into it. Next up is, I have these items in front of me, and I'm going to explain what that is, what we're going to do. We have two kinds of stamps here. And it's important to note that I've gotten my stamps primarily from scrapbooking people. Excuse me. That means that I watch for them to go and sell their used goods, okay, and I scarf them up at a really good price, like 50 cents each, and I know they cost like anywhere from $5 to $10 to even $15 or $20 in the stores new. And if they're still in good shape, which they appear to be, hey, that's great for us, okay? So this is a flower, and I'm going to try to capture this area, and this is some moons. Now I'm going to use two different techniques. I'm going to move this one to the side, and I'll explain it to you later. This one here is going to be done with mica, okay? The clay that I'm using is Primo Black, okay? And the technique we're going to be using is the mica technique with the stamp, okay? I have everything here ready, so I'm just going to move it a little bit aside. This is an actual stamp for your holes when you go to, so you can put a jump ring or make a bail or something like that with that, or you can even do designs with these little stamps. They're like mini or micro stamps, okay? And they can be purchased anywhere. Look on eBay, look on RJ Crafts, Amazon. Oh, the list goes on and on and on. Okay, Rio Grande, Fire Mountain, Michaels. Not sure if they're sold at Michaels. Anyhow, the list goes on. So today, this is what I'm going to do. Is what I've done is roll this black clay out on a my thickest setting on my pasta machine twice. So I took one sheet on my thickest and another black on my thickest and combined it. And the reason why I did that was because I believe that I like to work with a very thick piece of clay when I'm doing an impression such as this, okay? Do you need to do it that way? Experiment. Maybe you don't like it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in the center of my clay, and I'm going to push down on it very firmly. Okay. 99% of the time I do not need a release agent. What is a release agent? A release agent is maybe a little bit of oil, a little bit of water, a little bit of cornstarch pushed onto your stamp or your clay so that your clay will not transfer onto your stamp. Okay? Like I said, most of the time with this technique I don't need to use it, and I didn't use it with this. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our mica, and I've chosen Pearl X Gold, okay? And I'll put a little bit of that on my finger, and I'm going to drag it across the top of my clay and my impression here, okay? Like so. Let me show you. I usually start off rather gradually, okay? So I don't want too much of it to fall into the crevices. Sometimes I'm pretty good at this. Sometimes I have to start over. Alright? So it does take a little bit of practice, and it's just clay, guys. You can redo it, put it back through the machine, and start over. It's not the end of the world, believe me. Especially with this technique. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second so I can show you that it's starting to come through rather nicely. I think that you could probably see it pretty well now. But I'd like to put a little bit more on. So I'm going to take the chance See how that's starting to come through a little bit better? Just got to be a little bit careful. You don't want it to go into your crevices, because in this project you'd like to see the majority of it on the top raised part of the clay. Okay, now if a little bit drips down there, that's fine, because it's probably impossible to get it not completely in there, you know, for some of it to drop down in there. So boy, that came out really strong, didn't it? Right there. Cool, huh? But I'm not going to be using all of this stamp portion anyway, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So let's just get some definition. Now the reason why I do the whole piece is sometimes I don't want to stop and have to put more on, and I'll show you that the way that I try to judge how I put my cutter on top of my clay to find the piece, I'm sorry, not the piece, but the section that I'd like to cut for the pendant. And then I turn it this way, this way. And if I don't have the mica where I want it, you know, then I have to stop my creativity flow and start over. So I'd rather just have it all smoothed out approximately, that way no matter what portion I decide's going into that section of my pendant will already be done. And that looks like that. That's pretty in itself. I'm sure everybody could probably figure out how to do something with that, just the way it is. So I'm going to wipe my hands off, pardon me for a second. Okay, now what I did before you could see what I was doing is I took my cutter that I thought I might use, and I said to myself, well, before I go through all this, I'm going to see if this fits this, like so. And make sure that, you know, if not, then that way. You know, when you're making a video, it's good to be prepared. When you're just feeling out your creativity, you sit there in your room and go through it all you want and in and out of your stuff, and oh, everything is everywhere, which it is in my place too. So. But anyhow, that's how I did it. I wanted to make sure I had the right, you know, I want to use this cutter. I have 3 or 4 sizes. I think this was from Jill. Her name is Jilly Cutters from Australia. I like these, and I also like to point out where I get some of my stuff sometimes. Alright, now to do this I'm going to need a little bit of my cellophane, my plastic. Oh, I have it over here. Okay, probably told you this once before in a video, and I'll tell you again. This helps bevel the back and the sides, and it looks a little more finished when you do it, and that's when you're using this plastic. It makes it go over like that. Okay, the problem is my mica is on here now, and my plastic may have a tendency to pull it up. The clay is pulling it down, the plastic is pulling it up. So you need to just gently lay it on there this time. Now, let's see if I can get this around to look like this. So it's gently laying on top of there, but when it gets pushed down in there, that's the way it'll be. Okay? Oh, that's right. I wanted to do something different with this one. Let me see something here. Very hard to do it backwards for you guys, so I apologize. But I'll be happy to turn it around once I get that part. Oh, I see. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Now this is the top portion of the flower, so the rest of the clay can be reclaimed and used for something else. Okay. Maybe some beads to go with my pendant. Now, this is very thick clay. That cutter cut through that like it was butter. That's how good it is. So, at this point, what I would like to do is show you how you put your holes in there. See how I scrape that up like that? You want to be very gentle. A lot of times you could leave it there, but this time I want to just take some of the edges off, soften it up a little bit. Saves me a little time in the end when I'm finishing the product. So this is the top part of my flower, and it has a nice design, and I like it. So I'm pushing the sides and just slightly running my finger across them to make sure that I can get a nice smooth edge and side on there. And just maybe I won't have to do much to the back or the sides. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is put this in my toaster oven. And I'm going to do that. There we go. There we are. Right after I put my holes. Okay. Now that's a pretty big hole for this smaller pendant. And this is indeed a smaller pendant. Now, with this pendant, I'd probably like to do something little on both sides. So you need to do a little bit of concentrating on, you know. Let's see. I got this one. I think I'm going to use the green one. So I'm going to turn this around so I can really get a good shot at getting it right. And what I'll end up doing is putting 2 jump rings, at least at this point that's what I have in mind, to hang on a rope chain necklace. Now, kind of see how I did that, so I'll do it again, and there we go. Alright, this is the first pendant. I'll put it in the toaster oven, and I'll come back and show you that. Okay guys, I'm back with the second portion. We did have to do a little bit of changing around. I'm not going to use the moon stamp. I will show you why in a few. This is going to be a foil, and it's going to look a lot like this leaf right here. Okay, so I've doubled up on my clay. It's Primo Scrap. Changed it up a little bit. This is the scrap from all my projects between here and there on this black project. Okay, so I'm going to use this stamp, and I'm going to do the same as I did before, but this time I'm stamping ahead of time. I'm using my red because I like that. Maybe I'll use a different color just to change it up. What do you think? Let's try, is this still red? I got my sheet. Oh, this is pink. Let's try pink, okay? Alright. Now, because this is scrap, very important information here. I'm going to put some clay, and the reason why is because this clay that's scrap has mica in it, it has some foils in it, it has some barriers. And what I mean by barriers is, if I want something to stick that's very thinly on my stuff here, I have to make sure that it's going to. It will if it were just plain clay and not scrap. Most likely I would not have to do any of this. But since it's a scrap clay, I want to make sure that my foil sticks without any issues. Plus it'll stick that much thicker, or I'm sorry, that much stronger after it's baked as well. So I've just decorated the top of that with some liquid Kato liquid clay. Alrighty, now I'm going to put my pink sheet on. Find the opening, and it doesn't need to be perfect, but let's flip it over and see how it comes out. There we go. And you just want to rub your hands across the top of it. Okay, it can get everywhere, trust me, I tell you that. Probably be all over your face by the time you're done. Okie doke. Let's see here. Alright, I don't want to push it anymore because it is indeed sticking to the clay. I gotta pick this up a minute. Alright. That's interesting. Okay. So, I am not using my plastic this time because I'm sure that there's a good possibility that that plastic will pull off my foil. And there you have your second pendant done with stamps. Here's your first one. And you can figure out a bail on these later, and I will after I bake them. I don't think I'm going to put a hole in these because the tops are a little bit thin and I'm not sure how I want to use them yet. So I can afford not to because then I can make a bail out of polymer clay. And I'm not sure if we did that video or not, but we might do it next. And you can also put a glue-on bail. There's so many different things you can do. So now you have two versions of how to use your stamps, especially if you're a scrapbooker and you want to combine your art. This is Jules by Jude, and if you like this video, press like, and if you like it, share it, and if you share it, subscribe. Thanks. Have a blessed day.